Hello and welcome to Everything's Alright, a bi-monthly podcast for authors and writers with tips, tricks, and challenges to level up your writing skills. I am aslewis, your host, guide, and guru for all things word-related. I'm a published science fiction and fantasy author, a published nonfiction author, and a fan fiction enthusiast, which means I'm also a really big nerd. For the past several years, I've been writing everything from multi-million-dollar grant proposals to sci-fi novels to ghostwriting for national leaders and politicians to spoken word poetry and anything and, well, everything in between. And I'm here to help you improve your writing, no matter what type of writing that is. And who doesn't want to get better? So let's get right to it. What do real estate and writing have in common? They both know that success will depend on location, location, location. You've probably guessed this week's topic: setting. So, what is a setting? Well, at its most simplistic, a setting is the location of your story. It sounds simple, but you have to remember that definition includes everything, everywhere, every when, truly. The setting involves both the time and the place of the story. That means the world or the time period or a new world or a never before period of time. But it can also mean the climate, the environment, even the societal and cultural influences. It can be grand in scope, like creating a brand new galaxy like in Star Wars, or as small and confined as a single room, like in the Yellow Wallpaper. By the way, if you have never read it, read it. I mean, it's a short story, so it won't take you long. The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. You better read it. I'm watching you. Okay. Back to setting. Like I said, setting is the everywhere and every when you can imagine. And it's not just a backdrop. Setting is really only second to plot. Why? Because just like the plot of your story, the setting influences everything that happens between your first words and your last words. Whether your story takes place in the year 1307 or 2313, it will change how your characters get from place to place. Whether your entire story takes place underwater or underground matters in how plants and animals look and behave. Whether your story takes place in Nolans or Boston will affect your dialogue. The point is, while it may seem inconsequential, your choice contributes to more than creating a pretty mental picture. Your choice of setting will also affect the tone and feel of your story. Certain places and spaces conjure and create certain expectations within your reader. An old, abandoned house, a dark, empty road, a fog-covered graveyard under moonlight. You automatically start thinking ghost story, horror, or mystery. But a bucolic hamlet, a field of wheat and golden sunlight, a cobblestone path through a central square, you may think period piece, historic fiction, or fantasy. No matter what you choose, the effects of that choice is the gravitational force that keeps your characters, dialogue, theme, point of view, and plot from spinning off in opposite directions. And it gets even more complicated because sometimes your setting can function almost as a character in the story. If your setting has a particularly strong presence, it does more than affect your story. It becomes involved in your story. But we'll cover that in a later episode. For now, let's keep it relatively simple. At its heart, setting can be broken down into four major types: temporal, environmental, personal, and cultural. Temporal settings relate to the time period or era in which a story's action takes place. Is your story set in the Cretaceous period, the Bronze Age, the medieval era, present day, or maybe the far distant future? For environmental settings, on the other hand, the physical surroundings are the elements of your story. They're the elements of your setting. The environment includes whether you use a tropical or frigid climate, urban or rural landscapes. Are you in New York City or a Tahitian village? It is generally the most obvious where of your story. Personal settings are similar to environmental settings, except where environmental is macro level, personal is the micro level. Personal setting is the orphanage or the widow's mansion, the big top tent of a traveling circus, or room 224 at the Sundown Hotel and Travel Inn. And lastly, there's the cultural setting. This setting is the soul of the space. It is the unspoken, ever-present social community flavor that colors and regulates how anything in the setting, including characters and, well, anything in the setting, how they relate to and interact with one another. What I mean is, the cultural setting will affect how people interact with each other, how objects are used or seen together, how clothing and skin balance one another. All of these elements contribute to and are influenced by your setting. So, that's what setting is, and that's what setting does. But, AS, how do I choose the setting that's right for my story? I'll tell you in my tips and tricks for choosing setting. When you're considering the where and when that is best to place your story into, try asking yourself these questions first. Number 1. When is your story? Be as specific as you can when you answer. Work from a time period or era, but focus it down until you know the very hour of the day from which your story starts. Number 2. Where is your story? Again, try to be as specific as possible. You can start from the outside and work your way inward. What planet are you on? What continent, country, city, county, neighborhood, house? What room in that house? Number 3. What rules or behaviors exist as a result of where and when you are? Is the climate hot? That will affect the clothing. Is it the far future? The technology we should see should be new and creative. Is the environment tropical? Well, times and deadlines may be loose and laid back, even in business. These questions should get you started, but if you want to really delve into the little details, try answering these additional questions. What's the history of this place? Are there any landmarks or monuments, old or ancient structures? How's the weather? What are seasons like? How do people get around, and what type of transportation do they use? If music exists in this place, how does it sound? This should really get you going down the path to an appropriate, well thought out setting. But if you really want to show what you know, then you should try the bi-weekly Wordsmith Challenge. In 250 words or less, describe a setting for a scene or larger story. You can go big like a city or a landscape, or small like a house or a single room. To enter your description in this challenge, send your piece to aslewisbooks@gmail.com with the subject line Setting Challenge. The winner's piece will be posted on the A.S. Lewis Books website and will get a shout out on a future podcast episode. And speaking of winners, let's see the winning entry for last episode's plot structure challenge. And the winner is Corinne L. with her short story plot outline. Here you can see she identifies the exposition, the inciting incident, the problem, the conflict, and the resolution. It's short, simple, and to the point, but it's just enough to give the story structure. Congratulations, Corinne. Keep up the good work. Next episode, we will highlight the winner for the best point of view entry. And remember, if you send in your work, you could be featured on an episode of this podcast. And if you don't want to share your work, that's okay too. The important thing is that you're writing and trying something new. That's how writing gets better. Even if you hate what you wrote, I promise you the practice will pay off. If you've enjoyed the show and would like to hear more, please click subscribe so you never miss an episode. Keep writing, and remember, everything's all right.